Hello and welcome back to the David67 Celtic News YouTube channel. Today's video obviously going to be a reaction to Celtic's 2-1 defeat to Bayern Munich in the first leg of the last 16 knockout playoff round. A game that was pretty much of two halves. First half, Celtic very much on the defensive, doing a brilliant defensive job for 44.5 minutes, and then an unfortunate error by Greg Taylor at left back let in Bayern Munich to score a goal with what was practically the last kick of the first half. Poor start to the second half saw us 2-0 down, and then for the last 40 minutes or so of the game, Celtic very much even Stevens with Bayern Munich, and for spells in the last 10-15 minutes, Celtic were very much the best team on the pitch. Does leave the tie technically still in Celtic's hands. Similar attacking display with elimination of those two unfortunate defensive errors, and Celtic could get through with a brave away win in Bayern Munich. There's a fair chance rather than a good chance of that, obviously. In today's video, we're going to have a wee look at the key incidents, the stats for the game, and my own player ratings, and one or two wee thoughts regarding the setup and the formation, and maybe any wee changes we can make to the team to shore things up and improve our chances in the second leg. Celtic got off pretty much to what could have been a dream start. Celtic got the ball out to Nicholas Kuhn on the right wing. He made some progress down the right wing, cut inside as he often does, and then a brilliant, powerful shot past Manuel Neuer into the corner of the goal. Unfortunately, Adam Ida had strayed offside by a few centimetres. Had he just held his run, the goal would have stood. As the reason that Neuer couldn't save it was because there was a Bayern Munich player right in front of him as well. Unfortunately, Adam Ida was just in front of that defender, and so correctly the goal was disallowed. And as I said, Celtic did a very brave job of defending for the first half. We barely got into the Bayern Munich half again in the first half in any attacking sense. However, Johnston, Carter-Vickers, Schmeichel, Trusty, and the midfield three all did a great job defending, as did Kuhn and Maeda and Ida, putting pressure on the Bayern Munich defenders and midfielders to slow things down. Schmeichel made a couple of nice saves in the first half, some good defensive tackles and blocks and so on, kept Celtic very much level until, unfortunately, as is so often the case, Greg Taylor's lack of height, lack of pace, and lack of good positioning caught us out. Beautiful ball by Bayern Munich over the top of Greg Taylor. He failed to show Elise on the outside, allowed Elise to cut inside into the box, and Elise smashed a brilliant shot into the top corner, completely unsavable for Kasper Schmeichel. But yet again, Greg Taylor's lack of height, lack of pace, lack of positioning exposed, and had he managed to push Elise out on Elise's right foot, Elise would have been snubbed out and the game would have gone in 0-0 to half-time. Celtic let Bayern Munich get on top of them. Celtic were under pressure for a good 4 or 5 minutes, couldn't get the ball out their half, and eventually yet another corner kick, this time to the back post. For some unfathomable reason, we left Harry Kane completely unmarked, and Kane smashed the ball past Kasper Schmeichel, 2-0 down. It did look like Carter-Vickers and Trusty were busy with players in the centre of the box. Looked to me that Greg Taylor was the one who was supposed to be marking Harry Kane at the back post, either him or Arne Engels. Engels went with the Bayern Munich player who went towards the middle of the goal, which left Kane completely unmarked and under no pressure at the back post, and Kane did smash the ball into the net very professionally. However, that seemed to kickstart Celtic. We got more and more into the half, and we did actually pull a goal back in the 78th, 79th minute. Corner to Celtic, keeping the pressure on Bayern Munich. Ball was brilliantly won back by Austin Trusty just outside the 6-yard box, nodded the ball back into Yang, who slightly mishit the ball, bounced then up to Dyson Maida, who headed the ball beautifully past Manuel Neuer. There were claims for offside, but clearly it wasn't offside, and the goal stood. And Celtic did have a couple of half chances in that last 15 minutes or so, but Bayern Munich's defence held strong. The other key incident for review would be that possible penalty where the Bayern Munich defender stood on Arne Engels' foot and ankle. Initially, the thought was that Engels was offside, but clearly he must have been onside, as it did go to a VAR review. And the referee was called across to the TV screen. I thought, great, we're going to get a penalty. This will get us back into the game. With half an hour or so left in the game, however, the referee deemed that the Bayern Munich player had made contact with the ball before he stamped down on Engels' foot and ankle. And so, although it was a foul challenge on Engels, it wasn't a penalty because of the slight touch the defender had got on the ball before the contact on Engels. At the time, I wasn't appealing for a penalty until I saw on replay. Having said all that, I've seen plenty of penalties given just like that. I've seen red cards given for similar player kicking the ball and then making a follow through that contacts the player's leg. Dyson Maida had that happen to him last year, getting sent off for a similar kicking the ball and then making contact with the leg. Austin Trusty had a penalty given against him, similarly against Aston Villa. And there have been plenty of penalties given to Celtic and against Celtic in that scenario. If you think about the Alistair Johnson penalty kick given away when Fabio Silva, when Johnson kicked the ball and then his follow through caught Silva slightly on the knee, that was given as a penalty by VAR. And so it was one of these ones which pretty much is a 50-50 decision. Quite clearly, the referee didn't see it and the assistant referee didn't see it in the first place. And the referee on the pitch didn't think that there was enough evidence to overturn his initial decision. And unfortunately, Celtic didn't get a penalty. However, of course, no guarantee that Arne Engels would have scored the penalty. He did miss penalty against Young Boys Bern. But it would have put Celtic potentially one goal down, half an hour, 35 minutes to go, very much back in the game and putting Bayern Munich on the back foot. However, just like the offside decision in the first minute, things didn't go in Celtic's favour with those two key refereeing decisions. Looking at the stats for the game, I've got the stats for the two halves put together, and I think if we did contrast the first half to the second half, it would be quite a contrast, as in the first half, Celtic had very little possession. We didn't have a single shot at goal in the whole first half for the first time in absolutely ages in a European match. However, in the combination of the first and second half stats, we've got possession 43% for Celtic, 57% for Bayern Munich. And so I dare say in the second half is going to be in Celtic's favour, that possession. Shots were 9 for Celtic, in total Bayern Munich 10. And again, all 9 shots for Celtic were in the second half. 2 shots on target by Celtic, 5 on targets by Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich had 5 shots blocked or off target, and Celtic had 7 shots blocked or off target. Kasper Schmeichel made 3 saves, and Neuer made 1 save in the Bayern goal. Touched in the box, 20 for Celtic, 30 for Bayern Munich, and corners were 7-7. So I think we can see from the stats, Celtic very much in the game, maybe not quite as efficient as they should have been in front of the goal, not putting enough pressure actually on Manuel Neuer to save. And on another day, maybe Ida keeps themselves onside and the referee gives the penalty, and what was a 2-1 defeat turns into a 3-2 win. So I think there is still hope for the second leg. Will require an even better defensive performance and eliminating those couple of mistakes and being that wee bit more efficient in front of goal and putting away some of the chances we create, and maybe in the second leg we get a wee bit of a rub of the green with a refereeing decision or a VAR decision. My own personal ratings for the game, putting the two halves together: Kasper Schmeichel 7.5. I think he made some good saves, marshalled the defence well, and wasn't really at fault for either of the two goals, and did make a couple of saves that kept Celtic in the match. Given Alistair Johnson 7.5 as well, I thought he had a good game defensively. He made a lot of key headers at corners and balls into the box. Um, he controlled the Bayern Munich left sided attackers much better than Taylor did on the other side. 7.5 for him, 7.5 for Austin Trusty. I think of our two central defenders, he played that wee bit better. Looked calmer on the ball, got the ball out of defence nicely, and was in part assisting for Celtic's goal with his header back across to Yang to keep the play alive. 7 for Carter Vickers. I think he did a fine job defending. I think on the whole they snuffed out Bayern Munich's very talented attackers and midfielders, um, and one couldn't really fault Carter Vickers for either of the two goals either. Given Greg Taylor 5.5, I thought he had a pretty awful game defensively. He was very much at fault for the first goal. Second goal, it looks like it was his job to mark Harry Kane at the back post. He seemed to drift into the middle, not quite sure why. And so I think it was either Engels or Taylor who was supposed to mark Kane, and neither did. Greg Taylor barely got into the Bayern Munich half, and I think Celtic did look a lot better, both defensively and in midfield and in attack, when Schlupp came on to replace him on the left side of defence. Given all three midfielders 7 out of 10, I think they did a good defensive job in that first half. However, didn't really get the ball out of defence, didn't get the ball out wide to take some of the pressure off Celtic in that first half. Second half, I think all three did have good touches, some nice moves, some nice breaking up of Bayern in midfield, and then getting the ball forward. Could have done with a wee bit more accuracy in terms of final passes and final shots from McGregor, Hatate, and Engels. And Hatate did have a couple of half chances with shots on goal, but failed to hit the target. Nicholas Kuhn, I have given 6, apart from that first minute foray down the right hand side that led to the shot that went in the net but got disallowed. I thought Kuhn was actually rather disappointing. He wasn't much of a threat getting forward in the time that he was on the pitch. He did do a fine job tackling back, working hard in midfield and defence, but as an attacking threat, apart from that first minute, he was a bit poor for me. So 6 for him, 6.5 for Adam Ida. He had a few nice touches in attack, held the ball up quite well at times, worked hard, pressurising the defence of Bayern Munich to try and slow down their out balls, and did defend well from corners and balls into the box at our end, but never really looked like he was much of an attacking threat, likely to score a goal at the other end. 8.5 in man of the match for Daizen Maeda. Wee bit of a quiet first half, which was mostly spent working hard in midfield and defence and tracking back. However, as the game went on, and particularly when he moved in centrally, he became a big thorn in the side of Bayern Munich. A couple of times he nearly chased down errant back passes. A couple of times he nearly pressurised Neuer into a poor or blocked clearance. And of course, he did score the goal. And on another day, Daizen Maeda could well have scored another goal or two had we got better chances given to him. And in terms of the subs, gave Schlupp 6.5. As I said, I think he did do a better job than Taylor, both in defence, midfield, and attack. Did look a bit more of a threat, a bit more creative, and a bit stronger in the challenge, and a bit more recovery speed to thwart Bayern Munich when they did get forward in that last half hour or so. Jota, I gave 5.5. Rather disappointed with him. Didn't really get himself into the game. No real good passes or crosses. No real shots on goal. And I think Celtic actually lost out a wee bit when we replaced Ida with Jota. And I do wonder whether maybe having Ida and Maeda centrally might have been a better option to put more pressure on the Bayern defence. And I've given Yang 7. I was a wee bit sceptical when he came on to replace Kuhn. However, Yang did look much more busy than Kuhn had done. Some nice passes, one nice run, and of course his assist that gave Dyson Maeda the goal. I think in terms of the next leg, I wonder whether Celtic should maybe swap out Greg Taylor and put Liam Scales in defence at left back. I think he might well be more of a physical threat to stop Olise. Also, more height and a bit more recovery speed and a bit better position sense as well. And Scales obviously is able to get himself forward, can be quite creative when he is playing at left back, and is, of course, more of an aerial threat both defensively and at corners when we're on the attack. Otherwise, I think Celtic pretty much needs to go in with the same starting 11, so I'd be inclined to keep with the same starting 11 and swap in Scales for Taylor at left back. Defend strongly, hit Bayern Munich on the break. If Bayern Munich do go a wee bit into their defensive shell and bring Celtic onto them, I think that in the second leg, I think that also is in Celtic's favour. As we showed in the last half hour or so, when Bayern Munich went a bit more defensive, we had the skills and the abilities to score against them and create a few other chances, which we unfortunately failed to take. So Celtic will be having a rest day today and then back into full training tomorrow on Friday for the game against Dundee United on Saturday. That finishes things off for this morning's video. We'll be doing a Dundee United preview video likely late on Friday afternoon once we've had all the press conferences and once we know fully who is fit or not fit or who is getting a wee bit of a rest at the Dundee United game at 3 p.m. on Saturday. And so until the next video, goodbye and hail, hail.